Garen and Topham online. Commissioner Garen, can you hear us?
Yes.
And Commissioner Topham?
We don't have her yet.
Oh, excuse me. Thanks. Okay, so we'll let me know, please, if you know that Ms. Topham joins. Again, this meeting is being both audio and video recorded. If you are online, please or at all, please be cautious to mute your microphone when not speaking. It may be captured by the meeting recording. Is there any questions or concerns with the agenda as published? Hearing none, we'll consider that adopted. The minutes are still pending, is that correct?
Yeah.
So we'll hold those. Is there a motion to ratify the warrants of March 19th and April 2nd?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Karen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lanzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there any public comment for items that are not otherwise on the agenda? Do we have anybody online? Okay,
No.
so moving on to pending leases contracts set forth on exhibit 1. I'll turn it over to manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have received the American Airlines non-signatory airline agreement from them this week. It's for a 1 year plus 2 1-year renewal term options. Everything looks to be in order there. Similar to Hyannis Air Service, Cape Air, we have received their signatory airline agreement as well. Similar terms, also included the freight service as well. All seems to be in order there. Gull Air is a Part 135 operator looking to do business out of the airport. That is a course.
If I could, excuse me, we can just hold that one. We don't have enough members to vote on that one.
Okay, we'll pass on that one. The next one is Tri-State Charter LLC. They're looking to do Part 135 service between here and Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. We have received their agreement contract. The next one is Unify Aviation. They provide ground handling for both United, Delta, and they will begin providing ground service for JetBlue this year as well. So really we'll have one sole ground service provider here at the airport for all 3 airlines. I shouldn't say that. American Airlines, I forgot they had their, I apologize. The other one is Textron Aviation. We're looking at a $25,000 deductible for the luggage cart incident that occurred on the ramp. After further investigation, doesn't show that it'll have any impact really to our premiums next year. So we proceeded to move forward with that claim. And then the last one, of course, is the uniqueness determination to approve the purchase of property of 16 Kitty Lane. Yeah, I ask for your approval of all those.
Are there any questions on any of the items pending leases, contracts, or agreements? I would just take a second to address the uniqueness determination. We also have an agenda item further down that we will discuss that matter further, but this is related, this on the agenda is related, on the exhibit is related to compliance with chapter 30B.
Mm-hmm.
If there are any questions. Is there a motion to approve the leases, contracts, and agreements as set forth on exhibit 1? So accepting the Gull Air contract.
Second.
Mr. Muscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lanzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you.
Arthur, is it, if Mr. More to show up, can you pull that out of order? Should go back to it? The dollar?
Which one?
If
Gull Air?
Stockholm shows up.
Sure, yeah, we could probably
We go back,
we could go back.
Just checking.
Yeah, no, that makes
If
sense. That would be
appropriate.
nice to move that along. I mean, if everyone was so inclined.
Right, whatever. Sorry.
Pending matters, Mr. Smith, the South Apron Ramp Expansion Project update, please.
Yes, so both noise monitoring microphones are now fully operational and functional. The management software has been downloaded to both the environmental coordinator's computer as well as the airport operations superintendent's computer. It is our understanding from our IT technician that the software makes a file available each day, which analyzes the noise data. However, it doesn't provide real-time usable data. So that's something that we need to work on to see what can we do to get that real-time data, usable data. There is potential for training on this software for multiple users, so we are looking into that option as well. So it's not just fixed to just 2 computers, and try to have that more accessible to airport management. So, yeah, that's what I have for the South Apron currently for that expansion project. So,
Mr. Lasden, should I ask you about that? Is that anything that something you're familiar with, or why we don't have sort of a dashboard, or the ops wouldn't have real-time access to that noise data?
I'll have to get back to you, Mr. Chairman, on that topic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean,
Yep.
I believe the intent all along was that you know, it would be a tool for operations to understand really, you know, as we're trying to do our best, be our best, you know, for the community and environment in terms of emissions and noise for, you know, extended run periods to help identify that. So I don't think just having it in a log is really going to achieve the objective.
Okay, I will get back to you.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
perfect. Yeah, moving on to the PFAS investigation update and the notice of.
Oh, I'm sorry, if I can go back, under the south, unless you had it somewhere else under, maybe it was under bid status, but the status of the noise wall.
I do. I have that actually down
Okay.
in my manager's report.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So yeah, when it comes to the moving on to the PFAS investigation, I'd like to ask Cameron Woods to provide our update for that. She would be so kind.
Was
She there?
You're muted. Maybe we'll come back to that agenda item if you
Yeah.
prefer.
Yeah, let's do that.
Ms. Woods, if you're able to come online, just please let us know.
Let us know. Okay. All right, moving down, crew quarters project. The transformer is scheduled for installation tomorrow, either tomorrow or Thursday. There was an issue with the permit as it had been issued for the month of March, but here we are in the month of April. So they were able to get that squared away, and it's confirmed that the permit's good for the next 2 weeks, but their plan is to have the installation either tomorrow or Thursday. So that gives no delay in our timeline there. The exterior slabs concrete work is scheduled for this week. Binder is scheduled for 4/9 or 4/10 this week as well. And I was able to take Preston, my assistant airport manager, as well as Gary Allen, just 2 days ago, wasn't it? It was a Monday, for a site visual inspection, and we have it on the books to get together to start formalizing a permanent maintenance plan, moving on in the future for the dorms, and just having the airport staff be the ones to maintain that. So that's the updates that I have for the crew quarters project. Any questions on that? Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm just curious, like where the progress is with the actual building interior. I noticed it's still not shingled. Seems kind of odd to be this far down the line and the thing still isn't shingled.
That is a good question. Yes, I will look
You
into
know,
that.
getting it weather tight.
I noticed that too.
It's kind of
Okay.
crazy at this point, in my opinion. Should
Sure,
have been done 6 months ago.
sure. Yeah. I'll look into that. I'll get you an update. Perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Well,
Mr. Smith, we have Cameron
oh, perfect.
online.
Thanks.
so-
You'll go
Hi,
back to-
everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Apologies for that. That felt like I was just in this terrible trapped movie where I could hear you and I couldn't speak back to you. Just to give a quick PFAS update, we have one update regarding the IRA status number 17. We had previously thought that the surveying of the monitoring wells on the west side would have been completed and updated for a groundwater contour map to be able to provide for you this week. Unfortunately, Weston, I just spoke with them earlier and they have not finished that up. So we're hoping that by the May commission meeting, we'll have the updated groundwater contour map, which incorporates the new monitoring wells, the data from those. We received a notice of audit findings, and that's something that we are working internally with our team to develop the best course of action moving forward. And we'll continue to update the commission on that. But at this time, this is something that we're working through internally and doing the best that we can to be positive stewards of the environment and our neighbors. But that is all I have directly right now for the PFAS update.
Thank you. Any questions? Anyone from the public?
Nothing,
Okay,
no
thank
one
you.
from the public.
Perfect.
Terminal optimization.
Yeah, terminal optimization. I had a really good conversation this week with representatives from CHA regarding the geothermal system. Their suggestion was to do a closed loop type of geothermal system. Personal opinion is to not really go down that route rather than continue looking toward a pump and treat method when it comes to the geothermal system. I just had concerns about just the way the water is being pumped and moved, and if we kept it within a closed loop system, it just brought a lot of questions and concerns, especially for water that's already got PFAS containment in it. So that is definitely something I would like to get a better idea on what it would cost for such a pump and treat system. And then also potentially looking on how can we better keep the air in the terminal during summer operations. From what I have been told is that a lot of air can escape through the baggage claim doors when those doors are rolled open. And the potential of maybe getting plastic kind of curtain sheets that might restrict air from flowing out. Still, you could drop bags through that doesn't disrupt too much air. And so looking into potentially adding those to maybe help when it comes to the air within the terminal during the summer months. So that is something that I would like to investigate, look at, maybe get some cost analysis on those as well. But that was the discussion in regards to the geothermal this week for the terminal optimization. The other items that came up was the potential to repurpose the space in the terminal. We've seen the cost of what it can be to just build or add on to the terminal. It's very high. Definitely, it's not effective. But when there is space that could potentially be repurposed, why not go that route? Why not look into those options? And one area that I've been looking at is the gift shop area. If there is a way to repurpose that space to include common use kiosks for all the airlines. It was something that was very effective at my airport at Paintfield. We had 8 common use kiosks that printed boarding tags and bag tags right there. You could select whatever airline you wanted, bag your own bags, or I'm sorry, tag your own bags, and then take it to the counter to go get weighed. It reduces the lines at the counters. It flows better, and it would open up the area in front of the TSA where there already are kiosks available, and so that you could potentially create better flow there, basically going into TSA. And so those were the 2 items that I'd like to look into and see how we could potentially repurpose that space right there as you enter into the terminal. So any questions on that? I know it's a lot.
I have some questions with respect to the investigation into the groundwater scrubbing option related to the geothermal. Have we made any progress on that, or is that in works, and when might we be hearing back in terms of a potential, recommended solution there? I think the closed loop was pretty much everyone, was against, given the scope of what that would be. But is there a way to, or is that going to be remain pending until we work further through the phase 3 investigation of the PFAS? So, remediation, but even if it would be good for us to know what that would involve. I mean, we've been talking about it for a little while, and is there a way to start to put, without going full engineering design, some, 30-40% type of investigation as to what that might look like? And Mr. Lazen, have you been started down that path, or is that?
So there's been lots of discussions on a couple of different topics that the previous airport manager had recommended to move ahead with. And in a conversation that I had with the airport manager just this week, I had suggested that if it works out, that maybe, you know, a couple of members of the commission and the airport manager and the design team could get together, you know, at the airport to sort of talk about moving ahead. Because there has been a lot of discussions on a couple of different topics, and we have investigated a couple different options on the geothermal, as was shared in the report and discussed at a previous meeting, but there has not been a final decision made by the airport on what exactly to move forward with.
So
And I
I'm
guess,
starting to feel like maybe we might start to be a little bit rudderless here, and we might have to fine tune that, you
right,
know.
that's what I'm suggesting, that I come down and we have a meeting, and if yourself and maybe one of your other commissioners is available to sit down and discuss it a little further. Because the other,
That
you know,
sounds
the
good.
other sort of concern about the geothermal system, independent of how we get the water, is there's been a long going concern about there's something that doesn't work with the system. And
Right.
you know, and I have never been able to sort of capture a better answer than something that doesn't work. So I've through the airport manager, I've asked to have this meeting, and again, it was him and I just spoke yesterday about
Super.
having this meeting to get together so we can
Okay,
better
thank you.
get into this discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I volunteer to be part of that, as you all know.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
something I'm very interested in and
please.
passionate about.
Yes.
But I think also we were talking with the fellow that was working with us on the remediation,
Jim Sokol.
Jim Sukup, yeah, so I
Yes.
think so. About where to put the other wells, right, how to reposition the wells to be better about if we're gonna pump the water and we're gonna use that as our next phase of the PFAS remediation, that'll be most effective. So I think that his plan is paramount to the whole plan, right? Another thing
yeah, go ahead. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
I think that's important. And also just before, I've talked to a few of the guys that are working out there just on learning about it. And every year they gotta go in and they gotta clean up the discharge wells.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to make sure that when we do that, that we investigate to make sure that that the piping in the discharge wells go down into the water and that they just don't dump into the top of the well, because can be what causes the well to actually foul, because you introduce all that air into that water and it causes problems inside the injection well. They're supposed to the pipe's supposed to go down into the water. I just don't know how they're built. And I just thought it was something that if that's a recurring thing, then maybe that's what's causing it.
Yeah, well, let's please,
Yeah.
you know, if the commission's amenable, then Commissioner Marks and I can meet with, Mr. Lasden and Mr. Smith and whatever staff and whatever is good.
I'd be curious to see what's going wrong too. I
Right.
think there's a couple of things, I think we talked about it too, Mr. Lazen, is like using flow transducers and delta T and monitoring the flow through the system. I think that there's probably a lot of money to be saved by not running the pumps wide open all the time too, to make the thing more efficient. You know, based on the load that's on it. So, anyway.
All right. I'm just glad that we have let's definitely get together and sort of keep it going forward.
Perfect. I'll get that on the books here this week. Perfect. And that's all that I had for terminal optimization to this point. Any other questions?
Any questions? All right, moving on to the commission's consideration of whether to make a position statement regarding annual town meeting article 72. This is the car rental bylaw and modification by the select article put forward by the select board, to which the finance committee has made a recommendation to refer to further study. So we talked about it briefly at the last meeting, and if you've had a chance to look that over, I think our three options that I see is take no action as a commission and see how it goes with town meeting. Take a position to support the select board's article, which in summary essentially makes some modifications to the existing, what's known as Chapter 58, which is sort of the taxis and what establishes the cap on the taxis and tries to refine some language. Or a third option would be to support the finance committee which essentially kills the select board current article, and refers it to further study. So, this was the way for the commission to, have a discussion if anybody felt strongly, on any of those three options or any other alternative.
I mean, I think we should support the selectmen and to move it forward and get something done so that we can then follow suit with our own issues, right? That we discussed. I think that's kind of what we
Yeah,
talked a little bit about before.
we did, just in general. I mean, that would be one option, or, further review. One of the things I wonder is, the airport doesn't have to take any position. And do we see how it, not come out with an actual position on it? We haven't actually formally been asked. And see how town meeting goes,
I'm okay with that too, honestly.
I think that's
and not be put on a spot.
Yeah.
My sense is I wouldn't want to be against the select board as our point of authority, and having worked on this. That's in my mind, the two choices really is not so much supporting the FinCom, but either simply observe and, vote your own conscience at town meeting. And as a commission, we don't take a formal position, or we vote on actually coming out in support of the select board's article. So personally, I'd be leaning towards a take no action, not so much on the article itself as to not taking a policy position on it when it's not really clear cut.
Fair enough. I
Is
agree.
that how everyone feels?
Yeah,
All right, so I don't think we have to do anything further on that. I think we would have needed a vote if we wanted to take a position. So that moves us on to request for approval and execution of a purchase and sale agreement for 16 Kittawaki Lane, shown as lot 376 on land court plan 1651412. And this is the purchase of real estate to serve. The current purpose would be to serve as the residence for our manager. Ultimately it becomes airport property, airport holding, that it's not dedicated solely to a manager. The manager ended up with housing and we needed to use it for somebody else. It's not dedicated on that purpose. We have, I think it's worth a little bit of explanation. We spent as a commission, the last couple of years, but even several months, before the capital program committee with, requests for support to construct two, dwelling units at the, Nobody Farm property. And we met with a lot of resistance, and we spent a lot, both the former manager and myself and staff, trying to justify the cost. And we ultimately did not obtain the support of the capital program committee, and as such, following, didn't really get any traction or support from the finance committee. So kind of left us in a current position where we couldn't move forward with that housing. It was suggested on more than one occasion through that process that the airport should actually purchase a currently constructed home. Part of the problem or challenge is the cost of construction. So especially under municipal requirements, as we're finding with the dorm, by the time you've paid prevailing wages, owner's project manager, all of those associated costs, and then the big one at the current moment is a factor of timing. And we also have spent months and months now trying to secure a rental prior to a year-round rental, suitable rental, and it has proved impossible, frankly, to find something in the current market. So I think that this is where the commission is at, and will, at least serve to provide some housing for airport staff. And we're gonna, I still have, I believe strongly, and I'll get into this in the next agenda item as well, that just because we buy this one, I don't believe the airport should stop from what I consider to be some form of a housing production plan and continuing to pursue construction of some additional units, limited. But I think that it's going to be very difficult to have a stable operation that requires, there's, as we all know, very much public safety aspect of folks working at the airport, and it's not, certain positions are just not going to lend themselves to be a commuting workforce. And we're going to have to accept that we're also, going forward, there may be some positions that are that's where they transition to, as much as, I think a lot of us don't like to see that from a community perspective. It's a function of the market that we're facing. So I know that was a lot, but this is a somewhat of an unusual action, but I think it's necessary. And so this is being purchased with retained earnings from the airport, so there is no impact on the taxpayer. I think that's important to also understand, that that there's no increase in property taxes or other direct fees or anything else. That this is essentially, I think we have done a good job planning, thinking that we were gonna build, and some of that money that we've been saving for that is gonna go to this. And so that's what I had. Is there any further discussion and or a motion to approve the request and approval?
I'll make the motion approved.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to potential capital projects and the schedule. And we had a list in our packet, the last page of the packet.
Yeah.
You want to run through that, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'm actually going to defer to my business manager, Lex, to provide that update. Sheila.
So, thank you, Mr. Smith. The list included in your package, it's from our CIP list that we prepare every year and update once a year with our consultants, MJ. This is a preliminary list. We are going internally to meet on the 14th of April and see if we need any requests regarding equipment and vehicles. And we also decide if we're going to resubmit any requests from fiscal 2026 that didn't make the cut in front of the Capital Program Committee, and resubmit for fiscal 2027. After that, on the 28th, we are meeting, me, Preston, and Warren, we're meeting to finalize any requests for the Capital Program Committee. And we are hoping to provide that list to you, finalized list, in the May Commission meeting. We still haven't received a schedule from the Finance Department and the town regarding their timeline, but usually Capital Program Committee starts meeting in July. So we should be ready to go to submit everything in June. And again, this is very preliminary. There will be a lot of discussion. We just started this discussion this weekend process. We met with Rich Lasden and Drew from MJ last Friday just to discuss these projects that they're currently on the list since we last updated it last year. And this is all I have for you. We'll be happy to answer any particular questions regarding any of those listed projects.
Anybody have any questions?
I just had one comment. When they do the center line for 64, right? You're gonna bring in an asphalt plant to do that?
Yeah, we have,
Looks like
we're not
part-
bringing one
That's what
in.
it says here.
Just
Temporary paving plant.
On the
No,
last page?
I didn't think we
it's the same as that right there. It says
Indeed.
permitting or master.
Oh, that's for the master plan update.
Oh, that's just permitting.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's for the reconstruction of. the
That's,
runway.
that's
Not for the
the,
center line
that's
project.
the major
major
rebuild.
Right, I understand. And it says at the end there, including permitting for a temporary paving plant.
Oh, that's it over there.
Oh, Oh, okay, right. So yes, that came up. So now I see your point. I'm sorry. Yeah,
So-
the
So if
talk
that's the
was,
plan to, if that's what I'm just thinking, so this is what, we talked about this the other day, right? About Bunker Road, right?
yeah,
Bunker Road's getting beat up pretty bad. I've noticed this. I don't know. Obviously, we can patch it up right now, right?
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if maybe this is a good time to address trying to do that at the same time where you have, everything's already here. They're gonna go out there, grind the runway and then repave it. Maybe it's a good time to just swing over there and it'd be a lesser project, but I don't know if it's a good, I think it's a smart time to, all the mobilization all is done. Right.
so I think.
I don't know if it's possible or legal to do that, but I just.
No, I think
Makes
that,
sense.
these are very good points, and that's just getting this on a preliminary list. What I think we would want to do would be to revisit our pavement management study from a few years ago that had set out so that we could identify, and that road may not have been included in that. And then perhaps we include a line item for pavement rehabilitation for areas other than the runway.
Right.
Right, and then you get an economy of scale and piggyback onto our own paving plant and line that up to happen in the same year. Now, that being said, some of the discussions that we already had about the rebuilding the runway was just keeping up with just that one, but maybe you can keep the plant when that one is done, that would likely be a multi-year type of effort. But let's look at, I think that's a great point, that if we could do a line item for pavement rehabilitation for other areas, a sort of a blanket. And then maybe say revisiting that older study, get a, ballpark for a placeholder to be able to do that. So,
Yeah, I'm just
I
trying
think
to
that's
think,
a good idea.
if you're gonna mobilize a
Yeah.
plant here, I think it
Right.
makes sense to utilize it.
Right.
For all of our work.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
And then we have a plan in the short term to maintain it till we can get to that, to be able to get there. That's all.
I had a couple, which was, that I definitely believe that we should bring back our, line item for the townhouse project. And in the meantime, I think we really need to take some lessons from some. We need to refine those costs, including if we have to spend a little bit to, I know maybe not go to full bid, but. A big part of the problem with that permitting was that we were estimating very widely based upon dorm construction costs. And if we want to have a better chance at getting some support from the capital program committee, I think that we should have costs that are specific to the what's actually gonna be built. And start to work with our consultants, and if we have to use some professional services to get better engineering estimates that aren't just placeholders that look at the actual building and try to get us a cost that is something that we would actually be able to provide the committee. I think we're gonna run into a similar situation, and now that we've actually done this the other way, they say, well, why do you keep buying property, other houses? And I still am not convinced that we're not long-term stability of the airport building housing for 50-year type, time frame to really put this airport on solid ground for, decades to come. My belief remains that we should, use our land to do new construction and figure out how to do that as efficiently as possible. And the two projects that I still would like to see go forward would be another townhouse. And then, perhaps replacement of the Thompson House, which I think would make a lot of sense. So if we could have line items for there.
Okay.
And then one of the things that we may have already gotten approval from it in a previous year, and we just haven't moved forward, were stormwater improvements. If we could double check the rental car lot, there's still, I think there's still some work to do, and we had talked about in a previous year, and I think there might already be a line item from a previous budget, but if not, I would like to see some allowance for stormwater improvements. And then we still need to make sure we're doing the maintenance from that study that we did that identified all the catch basins, and if there's gonna be, that might not be under a capital project. But if it becomes for future budgeting that, if we've got to hire the third party to come in to clean those out to make sure that happens. But under capital, I'm convinced that we still also need to install some infrastructure in certain areas. And so if we could come up with something for that, I think that it would be good. And then the other is the SRE expansion. And so that had sort of been a placeholder in my thinking. What my understanding was that, we don't have probably enough retained earnings for that project as well as for the housing projects, and whether or not we have the other alternative of the expiring lease in a couple of years, that we would have an SRE building to use instead of having to build. And so at what point do we stop? Do we decide that that's what we're going to do and we don't this project in the capital? So you don't have to answer or decide right now, but if we're not going to really build it, then it's time to maybe move that off the list so that we can hopefully get better support for the projects that we are going to move forward on.
If I can add
Yeah.
to you, Arthur, going back to the building construction. I did reach out to a couple of local builders, and I think it would be wise for us to look at, offer to educate some of them about the DCAM process and what it takes to build these buildings for us locally. Because that's got to be a big part of what this price is. As far as the prevailing wage, you look at prevailing wages now, but everybody makes around here.
Yeah.
Most everybody makes a prevailing wage, the state prevailing wage, so I don't see that as being the decider. I think it's more the travel and the housing. And if you have a local guy that goes over there and builds, that's all they do is build houses. They know how to build houses. But I think if we can figure out how to educate them in that process of what they have to follow to do that project, we could potentially save ourselves some money. And maybe that's misled, but I feel it should help anyways. And one of the guys I did speak to was interested in, and he was one of the better builders here. But anyway, we should not obviously speak to a few of them, right?
Well, once it's out there too, when you're talking to people, they did work on their DCAM certification. I mean, that's, if there's anyone that's going to be interested, but it's still going to be out to open bid to the other.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So, but it might make for more competitive bidding, which
That's
is what
what
we really need.
Right.
And for sure, what it seems to me is that there's just all of these markups across everything for a change order it's not, there's so many add-on percentages, it seems like, that just inflate the cost extraordinarily beyond, what I think we would expect. So whatever we can do there, so.
And one other thing you talked about drainage, which made me think about something I drove through this morning. Beyond the SRE building, well, on this side, this side of the line, like that's where the trucks are kept, right? Those home trucks, are they in there? You know what the FBO is, and what's the next building, what's that one called? That's SRE.
Our station.
Our
I think.
station.
Oh, I'm on Hanson.
Yeah.
Airport Road.
Yeah, so that, if you remember that, I don't know, maybe if you were involved, remember how some people were concerned that the new
Ramp
extension was gonna drain into the road?
Yeah.
Well, I went by there this morning and the water puddle there, and then the road was like 2 feet deep.
Oh,
And I
Done
know
every
we
single
talked,
day.
and I know we talked to the town about allowing them to tap into that. And I believe, Mr. Lett, correct me if I'm wrong, that we said we had enough drainage to help with that. And I didn't know if when we had heavy rain, if it's actually overflowing our catch basin
so
because of the velocity there. I don't know if.
I can tell you, because I look at it all the time, and
Yeah.
I've been sending the town pictures for years about that puddle, because it causes, especially when it freezes and drips off the cars, it's horrible. And it needs to be addressed, and the DPW and the town have plans, and there are, it's all part of the Surfside Area Road Transportation Improvement Project, of which there is an article at town meeting to transfer funds from other projects. So Mr. Turbot and Mr. Padnout are absolutely working on it. And Mr. Smith and I have talked about it, because it has to be fixed. I see it. It's such a hazard. People that walk there can't get around it. It's really bad. And then we had that
I
accident.
think it makes us look bad.
It does. And so and they were saying for a long time that the airport was contributing to water. The airport stopped contributing its water, through that other project. And then the issue was the catch basins couldn't be cleaned out because there was perhaps PFAS, soil containing some PFAS, and we worked through that. They cleaned them out once, but they're just direct leach catch basins. You clean them out. I mean, it's.
They need to tie over into our.
It has to be so. But that leads to a bigger discussion regarding the taking process for the town to move forward with that project. So there is, that's also going on, and they're also going out. And so there's town meeting, and Mr. Smith and I have discussed it, and he has a meeting next week with Mr. Patnow about this. So I really hope that, and then one of the discussions that I've had was where they're gonna start this project, the Lover's Lane versus over here. And I feel strongly, and I continue to advocate, and I think we might have to take a formal position as the commission, as an agenda item if we have to request that this is what gets done first. It is a true public safety hazard. Our fence, that accident, I firmly believe, and it was in the police report, the person that hit that puddle, granted there was other factors involved, they hit that puddle, lost control, and wiped out the airport fence, right? So there's no question that there's impacts to the airport, the public. It needs to be fixed. So you could even now convey that this came up at the commission, and from, that has to get addressed.
Absolutely.
So stormwater, and I know that was soapbox, you got me. But I feel strongly about it. It can be fixed. It's just drainage.
Right.
So thanks. Anybody else?
Mr. Casbaro, we
Yeah.
have Ms. Topham joined us.
Oh, hello, Ms. Topham. Nice to see you.
Sorry, I had to get help to get on.
No, that's okay. If we could, if it was amenable to everybody, could we go back to exhibit, to the pending leases and contracts exhibit?
Yeah.
And, Mr. Marks and myself are going to recuse, and I will turn it over to Ms. Planzer if you all wanted to consider the, if Mr. Smith could go over the Bel Air.
It's the non-exclusive ramp license agreement for Gull Air. They're a Part 135 operator that would like to begin air service at the airport. And I would love for your approval on that. The best way to put it.
Okay, and so is there a motion?
I'll move to approve that.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do y'all have any more discussion on it? Hearing none.
Yep.
Okay, Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
And Vice Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Ooh.
That'll bring us back to a discussion of in-person, hybrid, and remote meetings. The governor recently extended the legislation allowing us to continue in a hybrid format. So the question is everybody amenable to continuing in this format? And I don't think we need to take any action. Just want to make sure nobody has any concern.
Mm.
Okay,
I think
so,
it's very helpful, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
Participation, especially with our group.
and with that, we're on to manager's report, please.
Perfect. So moving on to manager's report, for my project updates section, I have given my suggestions and the opinion on the preferred alternative for the master plan, with more recommendation to add potential noise abatement studies as it pertains to flight paths and the corridors. That is something I would like to have a little bit more review and discussion on as it pertains to the master plan, and really look into that a little bit deeper. I provided that to McFarland Johnson. I'm just awaiting to Laura Canham there. I'm just awaiting her response back that she got my email and it's going to add that to the master plan. So that's the only update that I have there pertaining to that. When it comes to continued environmental monitoring, no update there. The MEPA, NEPA was moved to 2026, so we can kind of table that until next year. Ramp lighting project is currently out to bid. The pre-bid conference is scheduled for tomorrow at 11 a.m. with McFarland Johnson. We did proceed moving forward to lowering the poles on the ramp down to 30 feet, as it didn't show really any change in luminosity as it pertained to the 40-foot poles. And so we made an executive decision to lower those, but that is currently out for bid. And then the runway 624 centerline project begins next Monday, April 14th for phase 1. We are looking at three full day closures, April 14th through 16th, with 1 day of closure on taxiway Charlie. Phase 2 of that project will be to conduct grooving. That is from May 14th through May 20th. This is going to interfere with our schedule with JetBlue as they are looking to start service on May 14th. So we are looking to conduct potential 10-hour shifts to keep that runway operational, as JetBlue's service doesn't begin until, I think it's 2:30 in the afternoon, in that ballpark.
They're running
Arrival.
one flight a day.
Yeah.
During that time frame, and I think it is 2 or 2:30.
2:30 in the afternoon. So we want to try to get as much work done in the morning as possible. We are looking to potentially have earlier start, maybe 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. If that is the case, we are definitely looking into noise abatement as it pertains to the city noise or the town noise ordinance. So I'm working with Eric Kamuni and trying to get those permits for that to see if we are able to begin a little earlier, because we do want to be cognizant of the general public that's next to the airport. So yes, we're looking for a waiver for that. And that's all I have for the project updates. Moving on, any questions? I guess I can ask that.
I just had one thing about the being cautious about the making a strict flight pathway.
Mhm.
Because short of like obviously flying around the island makes sense, but if you really focus it in one place, I think you're gonna really upset more people that are in it all the time, as opposed to a lot of the smaller traffic just comes in from all different angles and it spreads the noise out over everybody. It's a philosophy that a former commissioner had that he mentioned to me at some time, so I thought I'd just pass it along. Kind of does make a little sense. Everybody shares a little bit versus focusing it on one stretch of road, which a lot of it is anyways, because of 64, it's what it is, right? So the approaches on 24 is the majority of what we use, but just a thought.
Definitely noted. Yeah, I'd like to definitely look into maybe some consulting to see. I know previous airport manager had a consultant in mind that I've reached out to, just awaiting their just response to see maybe if they could potentially just give us some better study and see if there is maybe a better alternative. So thank you. It's great.
And I think just on that point, that the hope would be to promote over water routes before you cross the island, instead of that high rate of runway 24 really is like, if you can, and then help to, this is just for a consultant to study it. But if we could help to codify that to support air traffic control so that there's,
So-
it's a long, this is years.
No, but to your point there, that does make some sense, right? So if you had a departure procedure, right, from 24, and the departure procedures, said climb to 2,000 feet, then turn right on.
Right.
Or directed, because a lot of times I'll tell you what we get is you take off and then they say, turn to, right to heading whatever is to the right there. And you're at 400 feet and you're supposed to turn. So then you turn right over all those houses.
Gotcha.
So that's probably where you could make some improvement in that particular.
I
phase,
think
to your
that's
point.
probably a big part of this,
Yeah. And the same going the other way,
Right.
over the water that way, you could have that same type of, so you didn't turn left over Sconset Village or.
Exactly. And then it was perhaps be through this process codified in such a way that it becomes procedural for air traffic so that, safety being paramount first, but that standard operating procedures then, whereas right now, if everything is just following the shortest path. And so that's what we hope. Hopefully we get a consultant to work with us. I think that would be a big improvement coming out of the master plan to suggest our looking at that.
Thank you. All right, another, we'll continue on with today. Moving on to the next one. So non-AIP projects, in terms of fence relocation, The FAA has initially denied our modification to standard for the fence relocation, so I had some discussion with Mr. Lasden. Mr. Lasden, do you want to provide an update? You might be able to explain it a little bit better than I can.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
please, thank you.
So I think everybody in the commission is aware that the bluff is collapsing. So the whole idea was to relocate the fence. You know, based on expectations from the FAA, we followed a path, you know, using the average bluff failure rate to move the fence to give us another 20 years of life. The fence relocation and the fence failure are right at the edge of the runway object-free area, or what's called the ROFA, off the end of runway 6. And the fence relocation placed the fence inside the ROFA. It's inside the ROFA today, but it put it more in the ROFA than it is today. And so the FAA did not accept that location. They came back under the 7460 filing process. They came back with a, you know, don't put it here, or on runways 24 departures, shorten what's called the Tora and Tota, which is the takeoff run and takeoff length available. And so that would be a challenge because you already have a weight restriction on departures on 24. So I had a conversation with the FAA on sort of what's the next steps. And Colleen Maylew, who is your FAA planner, suggested that we complete a modification of standards application and at least have a formal application for them to look at and then see how that goes. But she did not give a very definitive positive answer that it would be accepted. And she said that, you know, if we submitted it and it was not successful, then we would have to have more conversations, because I don't think shortening the Tota and Tora is going to be a viable solution for this airport. And until the runway is, you know, potentially shifted in the long term, I don't think we can support a Tota and Tora reduction.
But we also can't not have the fence.
Correct.
So something's gonna give.
Correct. So we are working on your behalf on a application of a modification of standards.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Rich.
All right.
Moving on, refueling wall repair. Construction started last week and concrete has been poured. It is currently in the curing phases for that. Everything looks pretty good out there. Preston, was it next Tuesday that MJ's coming to do a site visit, or is it
Tomorrow
it's tomorrow? Okay, that's what I thought.
with a demob on Friday.
Okay, perfect. So that's moving along just fine. I think we're keeping that thing as cleaned out as possible.
There's been a lot of rain lately, but I saw it today. It was pretty, other than they're dripping water on it, so it's a little damp down there.
Yeah. Perfect, thank you. Electric aircraft charging stations, still no updates from their end. So we're just moving on from that. Noise wall, the bid plans and specs are going to go out on Friday, April 18th. With the pre-bid meeting scheduled for April 29th at 1 p.m. So that is moving forward. The ARF transition plans, our output discharge test, kind of what we were talking about earlier, right before the meeting. It is scheduled for April 22nd. We have drafted a public outreach memo. Actually, Cameron has done a great job drafting a memo to be put out to public, and that will go out and be made public as we approach that testing date. We're definitely looking at places to conduct this test to mitigate, overspray, especially on a windy day, as much as possible. And of course, we're keeping April 22nd, but if it gets to be pretty windy, that could definitely change because we don't want to have a lot of overspray with this new test. Unfortunately, it is required per the FAA to conduct an output test with your new vehicles. That cert alert came out on December 31st of last year. So we are required to do that. But if this goes well and is really good, then of course we have to do the same when we swap out our other two trucks that we have. So if this is successful, we'll hopefully use the same process to do that with the other trucks that we have. TAAs, we have not received any new TAAs since our last board meeting. So that's all that I have for non-AIP. Any questions?
No.
Perfect. All right, moving on for RFP bid status reports. We did have an RFP for the ARF transition. However, we did revoke that because we wanted to conduct this output test first. We didn't really have a good process in place at the time. So we have since backed that one out to make sure that we have a good process in place, do a proper output test before we move forward. We had some questions when it came to environmental, how we would capture the foam when it's sprayed for that. So we did halt that one right now, and we will hopefully put that back out to bid in the near future. 33 Bunker Road, it closed last week, of course, and we did receive 5 proposals for that. We have selected a committee meeting. It'll be Miss Andrea, me, and Lily on that committee meeting to move forward with that RFP. And then in relation to the flat top building, the old Blade building, we had sought more questioning from Anderson and Krieger based on the determination of how aeronautical uses was really the question, and how we proceed forward with that. If the bids come in as aeronautical use, can we go to kind of a sole source to choose, or does it have to go out to bid? So we're still waiting on their kind of response before we move forward on how we want to proceed with putting that building out for bid. So that's what I have for the RFPs. Any questions?
Well, we're getting a little tight on time for that flat roof building if we want to recognize some income from it in the summer season. So I think that if they were to give you an opinion that, you know, it could be done, it would seem to me perfect as aviation use with direct access to the ramp there. So and if you had, I don't know if you have interested parties or not, but somebody's going to have to plan for that space. And I'd hate to see us miss such prime, you know, real estate that we could recognize income from that building sitting. That's just my sense. I'd love to see us, you know.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, one thing that did hold us back a little bit was we were doing some repairs on the deck.
I noticed,
it was falling apart, and we figured out the structure underneath was sound, and so it's just the decking itself. So our maintenance team is working on that. So that bought us a little bit of time, but I think we'll follow up with Jennifer and Kate.
Great.
So let's do that tomorrow.
Yeah, and if we needed to have that, I would think on a May agenda. If you needed approval and if someone's gonna get started for the season, I'm not trying to force anyone in there, but I just would, you know, if someone's gonna make that commitment to operate for the summer, I'm sure it's, you know, valuable.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, I'll follow up tomorrow on that. Perfect, thank you. All right, operations update, the fence repair with the issue that we're talking about, the driver crashing through, there has been no update from that either. I do need to reach out and figure out where they are with that. Water rescue plan, today we had a great tabletop that my assistant manager Preston put on. We had very good attendance from a lot of good parties, from the Coast Guard, from Cottage Hospital, police, fire, and it was very well. I mean, if you want to, you're the one who put it on. If you want to give it up, I thought it was great. You did a fantastic job. And questions came about from
the water rescue plan came out in January. FAA, our cert inspector, gave us a guidance letter to update the water rescue plan within 30 days. And we did that, and because our water rescue plan wasn't the greatest to begin with. So basically it was a full rewrite. I learned a lot just by reaching out to Coast Guard, Harbor Master, PD, Fire Department, and we got this plan to where it needed to be. We submitted to FAA and got it approved. After the approval, we were required to hold a tabletop exercise within 60 days with all parties and agencies that are involved with the water rescue plan. So that's what we did today. It was a huge turnout. Unfortunately, our FAA inspector and Mass Aeronautics was going to be here, but the boat canceled this morning and they weren't able to. So we scrambled real quick. We created a Teams a link, so we were able to do like a hybrid situation. But the entire ARF training room was full, which was amazing. We had a great conversation for about an hour and a half on water rescue.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that checks that box.
Thank you. Well,
It does. I do think, though, there was some concern with response time from the main parties. Should an event occur in the water, which is a little troubling to say the least, but
The scenario we chose was in a air carrier going, basically a water landing a half a mile off of Novadear Beach with 140 people on board. And response time is an hour to 2 hours with boats. The first, I think we'll get helicopters first.
Yep.
right.
So we've got a lot of good key takeaways from that, and I'll be creating like a after action report.
thank you, thank you.
If I may, just like a good thing to be is to reach out to the regular general population if anything like that ever happens too, right? Requesting help. I mean, there's tons of us that have boats here.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I mean, the Andrea Doria sank and the first people on site were the Nantucket people, the rescue people. So that's who we are.
Yes, the Coast Guard has that capability to request.
Put up a notice, yeah.
Put out a notice to
Right.
any boats in the area and or
And they
coordinate.
do. And they
Yeah.
do,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you, Preston. All right, 1533 Reels project is currently underway. I do believe there is a full runway closure of 1533 tomorrow.
Scheduled, yes.
Scheduled for tomorrow to finalize the trenching work out to it, correct?
Any changes.
Yes. That's in full swing. Airline service, we have continued to have our startup calls with JetBlue to discuss season opening, aircraft gate parking and ramp operations. There is some concern with Spot One and how we're going to have these two A220s coming in and parking. We're going to get pretty creative. It's only for just the last week, the first week in September, the last week of the other airlines' schedules. That we're going to have to get pretty creative. We can make it work, but we're going to have to definitely dive deeper into that. So like I said, that's still continuing on. Still awaiting to hear back from Delta and American and United to begin, our summer season talks. No updates as it pertains to training. I think we're kind of up to date on that. Our annual ARF burn is scheduled for May 14th. Is it for half the staff that's going? Give or take? Third of the staff that's going. Okay. And that's up in Boston, correct? Is where the training center is, or is it in New Hampshire? One of two.
We're either going to Concord, New Hampshire, and in April, and then there's another crew going in May to Logan.
Gotcha. Okay.
That might be reversed, but
Perfect. FAA inspection is still slated for Memorial Day weekend, the week of Memorial Day. TSA inspection in May, and we did get our RSAT or runway safety action training meeting with the tower scheduled for June 10th. All are welcome to attend that. That just gives you an update of how the tower operates and any vehicular pedestrian deviations that we do get on the airport and how we can basically make it safer for the pilots for airport operations. Airport management, we went and attended the Runway Safety Summit in Worcester, I guess how you say it, last week. It was thank you. It was very successful. Really the main topic that we got from that was human factors as they pertain to situational awareness. And Preston and I, mainly Preston, came back and we really just, in our staff meeting, just brought that up that, we do have these demons that can get into our way as we kind of get hyper focused on what we're doing, and it can distract from our situational awareness, especially being out on an airfield where safety is paramount, and having how do you basically maneuver those human factors to ensure safety. So it was very, very great. It was really well done. So we thoroughly enjoyed that. Airport tenant meeting is Thursday, April 10th. It's coming Thursday, and is that 9 a.m., 10 a.m.? 10:30, thank you. And then seasonal positions, I think we're pretty close to filling all the positions at this point. So we're looking really good. So that's all that I have for operations updates. Any questions? Perfect. Statistics, operations are up 21% for January and 1% for February. I'm doing both because I know we kind of skipped last month. We're up 5% year to date. Southwest ramp operations are down 3% for February. Employment data is up 42% January, down 7% in February, but overall up 11% year to date. Cape Air's operations from Boston are down 18%. EWB is down 36%. Hyannis is down 36%, but Martha's Vineyard's up 194%. They've really put more in the market there this last month. Fuel cells, Jet A is up 4.2% over the 3-year average, 16% up over the last 3-month average, and down 4.5% from the previous month. Low lead is up 9.4% over the 3-year average, down 9.5% over the previous 3 months, and down 14.7% this previous month. Freight is down 2% for February and 13% to date. And Cape Air Freight and USPS are both up in their freight operations. FedEx and UPS are actually down for this last month. We have received 0 calls pertaining to noise, and no APU events have been reported for the statistics. So any questions there? I know it's a lot.
No, perfect.
Perfect. Personnel report, we have hired Megan Perry to replace Laura Scott's position as the office assistant secretary. She comes from the TSA. She's been working at TSA for a year or so, 2 years?
Oh, no, like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. Okay, perfect. She's originally from Hawaii, correct? Or came from Hawaii?
Born in Hawaii.
Born in Hawaii. There we go. So we're excited to have her on board. She should hopefully be starting either end of this week or early of next week. The environmental coordinator position, we had a great candidate, sent her an offer. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to work out details. It seemed more housing was an issue. And kind of the intent was this person really wanted to be more fully remote for the position, which we actually want to keep them here on the island as much as possible. And not be remote. So that one fell through. We have sent in another offer letter to the next candidate who was pretty comparable to the first candidate. She is showing heavy interest in the position. We've hopefully been able to answer. She had similar questions, but she seems to be far more reasonable. So we're hoping that this one comes through and hopefully have a name for you guys in the next committee meeting. So
Great.
And that's all that I have for a personnel report. Any questions?
Commissioners' comments, anything on the agenda, future agenda? Any public comment? Is there anybody on?
No, we
No.
don't have any.
Okay. Ms. Smith, I meant to ask you before, do we actually need executive session tonight? Is there anything you need to go over with us? I didn't think we needed.
I don't have anything. No.
Great, all right,
Forego
so
that.
we'll take a break from that.
I don't know, do
And I would
we need
entertain a
anyone to come
motion
on
to,
I will explain.
Hang on, we might have had Mina want to come and discuss something for executive session. Is that correct?
I thought after your meeting today,
Oh,
if you had something.
no, you know what? We don't.
I think we're
No,
okay.
okay. We don't.
That's-
That's correct. That's right.
thanks.
No, we're good. We're great.
Great.
We're good.
I
That's right.
entertain a
We're
motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Topham, how do you vote? Mr. Viscarin?
Aye.
Cleanser?
Aye.
Marks? Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Do we have things to sign, or are you gonna do the right signature, or?
I have only you and Andrea on right signature.
Oh, if you have them.
Yeah.
Sure.
we do.
Yeah. You can do it.
I'm in the office, Phil. Come on.
Yeah, like 7:30.
Okay. I just put on my calendar to try to figure out the phone like around 8 o'clock.
Shoot me a text and call.
Okay.
That way
I'd like to
I'll.
come with you and we can do that. That'd be
Okay.
great.
I'll be home.
That'd be great.
Huh?
9 o'clock.
Oh, man, I should. I know.
Tri-State Aviation.
I'll be there with you.
No, no.